Cool. Everyone can hear at home. Sorry, see you. Oh, what's going on? Sorry. So actually, is Jed in here? Phone data that I was not spotting from last time. VPN. Yeah, it's because I'm on the Wi-Fi here and it's possible from the also. Okay, data. Okay, yeah. I mean, it's that one. Okay. Oh, that's sorry, that's the password. See. Is that connect? Okay. Are you good? Yeah, should see. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me at home now and see the presentation? Okay, cool. Thank you. Great. Okay. Yeah, seems to be working. All right. Yeah, cool, cool. Okay, sorry about that. Hi, I'm Matt Olsen, um, from Kinship. Um, here today to showcase our new release of materials. So I presented last time at London Revit User Group, more of a kind of tutorial on like the nuts and bolts of how materials work in Revit. So just before showing you our new release, I'm going to give a quick kind of condensed version of that again. Just giving a kind of quick overview of how materials work in Revit, particularly for those that are kind of less familiar. In particular, there I'm going to focus on a few of the kind of key pain points of working with materials in Revit, and how Kinship now helps to solve them. So just quick intro to me. I'm Matt Olsen. I'm a product manager at Kinship, where I joined last year in June. Since then, I've mainly been working on this, the kind of new materials release. So personally, very excited to get this out into the world. It should be out this week, is what we're saying. Just quickly about my kind of past lives. Before Kinship, I was an associate and BIM lead at Allies and Morrison Architects. I was there for about 11 years. So my role initially was kind of migrating the practice into Revit, and then supporting about 260 odd projects kind of since then with a team of BIM coordinators. And before that, I was working in kind of practicing architecture roles at Levitt Bernstein Associates in London, as well as back in New Zealand, where you can probably hear I'm from. I think I started on Revit 2007 or 8, something like that, when I was a student back at university. And I remember kind of contending with Revit's like rendering engine back in the day, and the old school UI for materials. So yeah, I bring a lot of kind of pain with materials to this exercise of building it into Kinship. I'm sure many of you know our founder Jose, and therefore you know a bit already about what Kinship does. But just in 3 lines, we're a platform for Revit that provides content management, project tracking, and analytics. So this new kind of materials feature set very much fits into a strong content management system that's there already. You can check out our website at kinship.io to get an overview of what the platform does. And if you're interested in trialing Kinship or just talking more about it, Jed, right there, man with the mustache and the beer, is our customer success manager who can talk with you or have a chat to me. So as I say, just kind of quick overview of materials. Bird's eye view. Materials are key ingredients in drawings, so like drawing production, rendering, as well as quantification and analysis. If you kind of break apart a material and look at it in the material browser, you can see that it's split into kind of 5 tabs or property sets, which I'm going to run through. So firstly, the identity area contains kind of high-level information, its name, manufacturer, if you use one, and the keynote and mark, which are annotation parameters used for linking to specifications and often to kind of tag drawings. There's also the material class, which can be used to create groupings of materials like concrete or glass, and we'll come back to that later. The graphic settings determine how the material looks in the hidden line, shaded, and consistent color views. So these are your kind of 2D drawing visual styles. There's a combination of colors and fill pattern settings here that determine how an object will look on its surface and when kind of cut through in views. the appearance tab or appearance asset controls how the material looks when rendered and when looked at in the realistic and textured visual styles in Revit. And we'll take a closer look at this one in a second. And then finally, the physical and thermal assets contain structural properties and thermal properties, respectively, that are intended for kind of analysis if you use Autodesk's structural and thermal analysis tools. We've paid special attention to appearance assets in this new Kinship release. So I'm going to spend a few minutes just kind of walking through those specifically. So appearance assets define the rendered appearance of a material through a combination of visual properties. You can see a few of these on the screen here. You have a kind of a base appearance, cutouts, for instance, which creates perforations or holes in the material, or bump or normal maps, which give the appearance of relief. Each of those visual properties for the material are controlled usually by a combination of colors, of image maps, which I'll explain in a second, and kind of numerical sliders, which you can see at the bottom. The available properties are determined by the appearance asset type. So there's 19 as of the current Revit versions, kind of hard coded into Revit that you can pick from. Some appearance asset types are designed for more specific applications, like the ceramic one on the left there, which tend to contain kind of fewer visual properties you control. And then there are others that are more kind of general purpose, like the generic asset type on the right, which contain kind of a full range of properties, and can be used from anything from kind of glass to concrete to wood or whatever else. Many of those properties have slots allowing you to add image files, textures, often called in 3D modeling, or kind of image maps as they're called in Revit. Image maps are linked to the Revit model that they're kind of used in. So this is our kind of first pain point, really, that they don't travel with the model that they're linked into. And this is kind of a common pain point where you'll download a texture file from an online source, have it in your downloads folder, link it to a material, and then it can't be accessed by others. And that results in kind of rendering issues. So image at the top left, top right here, is what the same rendering at the bottom looks like, but without the image maps available to use. And it's usually not apparent to the person that's creating the material because they have the materials on their local drive. And this is kind of a key problem one of the problems we're addressing with the new update to Kinship. So as well as kind of the appearance of elements, materials also represent something about how they kind of perform through their physical and thermal properties. So the volumes and areas of materials like concrete in a model can be extracted using material takeoffs in Revit, which has a range of uses. So the area and thickness of insulation in a wall can be used to estimate heat loss on a facade, for instance. The volume of concrete used in columns and slabs can be used to inform embodied carbon calculation. Material takeoffs are not always accurate. So it's common for a window frame like this one. Anyway, on the right there, usually you would model a window frame as a kind of rectangular extrusion or something simplified. Obviously, when you extract a volume from that, it's not giving you an accurate quantity of metal that kind of exists in that in that window frame. So yeah, as I say, the physical and thermal properties are used for structural analysis and thermal analysis, respectively. If you're using Autodesk's tools, robots, Insight, the data that's within those physical assets is kind of used directly. But there are also kind of external analyses tools that use the Revit materials, but might replace the data from those assets with, their own databases, which are more code compliant or kind of specific to particular regions. Revit material volumes are also useful for embodied carbon in buildings calculation, which has become an increasing topic with clients prioritizing sustainability and regulations coming in, and practices are looking for kind of quick ways to estimate embodied carbon on projects. So that's just a very quick flyby tour of kind of how materials work. With that, yeah, we'll kind of get into some of the more like painful aspects of working with materials that we have tried to address with Kinship, and I think anyone that's worked with materials in the room will probably relate to these. So we have kind of 4 key issues that have really been the anchor for our new features in Kinship, and I'll run through those one by one. So issue number 1 is that materials are very much kind of locked into models, which I'll explain. So unlike component families like doors, which you can save out of projects as an RFA file, or system families like walls, which you can copy paste between models in the same session. Transferring materials across models and families is a bit more cumbersome. It's not easy for an architect to just grab a material that they used on previous projects to use on a new one. There are 2 kind of main ways that you can transfer a material between projects. This is kind of out of the box, so saving Python and Dynamo scripts, but these kind of native methods are really kind of not ideal, and this is something we're trying to solve. So the first is by copy pasting a family that contains the material that you want. So this brings all of the materials that are used in that family into your kind of target model or family you're copying into. And really the downside there is you might not have wanted that family. You only wanted the material. And it also brings all of the materials used in the family at once when you might have only wanted one. So it's a bit cumbersome. The second method is something I'm sure you will know, which is transfer project standards, which copies across, it's kind of all or nothing. So you copy all of the materials from a source model into a new one. And it's a bit like using a sledgehammer to kind of crack a nut. You're going to bring in a lot of materials that you didn't need, and in the process kind of bloating models with that. So in both of these cases as well, you need to be in the same Revit session as well as in the same kind of Revit version, which kind of go together. So that's kind of limiting as well. So because of those kind of limitations and materials being locked into models, there's really not a kind of good out-of-the-box method of creating a materials library for your company, which you may want to do in the same way that you would for families. In my previous practice, we tried to do this or worked around it by creating a almost like a container file with these block families, each of which contain one single material, and you could just kind of copy paste those into models. This required a lot of maintenance, and it's a bit cumbersome because you need to open the model each time, and we needed to copy it across Revit versions. It's a workaround. There is one other way using the ASK lid. This is kind of like an inbuilt material library. The interface is pretty terrible, and it doesn't manage image maps, which I mentioned earlier. But just in case anyone catches me out and says there isn't a way, there is one. So what does Kinship do? So we now allow you to build a cloud-hosted materials library. Don't worry, I'm going to get to the live demo in a sec. Yeah, for your company, so easily adding materials from any of your current Revit models or projects. And it allows architects and modelers to search the library from a Revit add-in or from our website, and load just the material or kind of group of materials that you need. Issue number 2 is that materials are very difficult to reuse across projects. So, in most companies, a huge amount of effort goes into creating, nice materials for individual projects. But harvesting those materials by kind of digging through models for reuse is really not kind of practical, both because of like version differences between projects and just the sheer amount of time required to kind of open and look through models. So as a result, teams are frequently kind of recreating very similar materials across different projects, with a lot of kind of duplication of effort. So our new release, Kinship, now tracks materials on models. So this is something that we already do for families. From the web browser, you can call up any model, which I'll show you, and see the materials that it contains. You can add those to the library. So this is kind of a quick way of like building up your library by harvesting good materials from kind of existing projects, and I'll show that in a second. And materials and models can also be kind of searched on by people working on other projects. So quite apart from the library, I might see a material on another project that's available in the Revit add-in, and I can pull it straight into my own model. Third issue is that in the Revit materials dialog, materials are not really kind of displayed or grouped in a meaningful way. I'm sure you've seen this if you kind of work with materials, but as the number of them grows, it becomes quite difficult to kind of find a specific material you're looking for, unless everyone's keen on following very strict naming conventions, which normally isn't the case. And this is where we come back to that material class I mentioned earlier. This is kind of like an inbuilt categorization system for materials, and it can be used to filter down the list, like shown here at the top. You can see it's only looking at kind of wood materials. I actually never used that once when I was in practice, because it's just very like cumbersome UI. But yeah, this is something that we have kind of taken from Revit and tried to push it further to make it useful and use as our kind of key organization system for materials in the library. Also, while the Revit material browser gives you a lot of information, sometimes the more important information isn't presented in the most clear way. For instance, the appearance asset types I mentioned earlier, they very much drive the visual properties that are available for the material, but the type you're using is frequently missed, even by those that are kind of experienced in creating materials. So you can see that for the left material here, I'll get out of the way. The appearance asset type it's using is called opaque, but where can you see that on this page? It's not very apparent. It does show it for wood on the left. These are the kind of non physically based rendering assets, but it's not obvious. Also, the graphics tab, it includes kind of a myriad of settings to control fill patterns and pull the render appearance across from the appearance asset. But where's the preview? It's giving you colors, but it's not actually showing you what it will look like in a hidden line view or in consistent colors view. So what have we done here? Kinship uses the materials class as a way to kind of organize materials into groups like concrete, glass, etc. And you can organize that as you wish, so as best suits your company. In your library, you can easily create and organize classes and materials in bulk. So it's really quick to kind of get your library into shape. And on the web, which I'll show you, we provide a kind of a rich preview of the materials, data, and appearance, which helps your end users, architects, engineers to make an informed decision about which materials they're using. So our final pain point relates to those image maps I mentioned, and how they're linked to materials through a reference as described earlier. Most materials rely on these kind of external image files to define their appearance. The problem is if they're moved, or someone has it in their downloads folder and then someone else tries to open the same model and render, or maybe a imported DWG with materials is brought in with its materials, others don't have it. Renderings will break, like we're kind of seeing here. And in most companies, you'll end up having image maps kind of scattered across different project folders, which means kind of a lot of duplication and kind of sourcing these and photoshopping them kind of where needed. So Kinship addresses this problem by automatically moving image maps that are added to materials to a central location. So as soon as image maps are added to the material and the model is synced, we take charge of the location of the image map. So it means that anyone else using that material or opening the model doesn't need to do anything. They don't need to have access to a particular location. Their renderings will just work. So this, moving on. The big thing there is that, as well as materials, the kind of underlying image maps are also quite kind of a valuable resource. I don't know, many of you in this room might have spent hours trawling through CG textures or these kinds of websites to find texture files to use in Revit. And just kind of thinking like someone must have also had this brick material, but it's buried in a project folder somewhere. Because we are now kind of centralizing image maps, Kinship is building a library of those image maps in the background. So over time, all of the image maps that are assigned to materials by anyone in your company become usable by kind of everyone else. Okay, so yeah, I'm not doing live demos, but here's some recordings of the kind of the finished product. So is the animation working? Oh gosh, it's very laggy. But this is the kind of opening page for materials, you can see that the materials are broken down by class here. It's sorry, the animation is very jerky. It's not actually like this. I can click to go into one of those and see, just the materials that I need if I'm looking for instance, a brick material. So that's kind of our opening page. Yeah. As I mentioned, see if the animation plays. Yeah, if I go into the classes page, this is kind of my area to manage classes. So Kinship is importing the class parameter from Revit when a material is first added, but I can also add them live kind of on the website. So Autodesk has a list of like 21 inbuilt classes that we've provided there as suggestions. But you can completely customize this as suits you. You'll often have kind of redundant classes or duplicate classes, and you could go in here and kind of merge them together. So bring all the materials from kind of multiple classes into one. And this might be what happens if you're initially just harvesting a lot of materials from different projects. It could be initially a bit of a mess, especially if like me, you never really paid attention to that class parameter. But once it's there in the web, using this page, you should be able to shape up your material library quite quickly. So here I'm looking at a summary page for a model on the Kinship website. So by going to the content page, which lists the families in the model, we're now also seeing materials. So let's say I have one that I want to add to the library. It looks good. I want to provide it to the rest of the office. I go into here, click add to library, and it's added to the library. So then I'll go over to the content area, which is a central library, and you'll see that it's been kind of added instantly. It might be that I like how the material looks, but certain data about it was not quite right. So I can go in and give it the kind of the class that I expect. And maybe add or remove kind of keynotes and mark values from here. So when it's used again, it's kind of cleaned up. Okay. Sorry, it's very laggy. The presentation. So if I click on one of the materials, this is kind of the materials page, an individual materials page. So at the top, you're getting a preview of the image in different kind of view modes, so hidden line, realistic, consistent colors. I can append kind of images, PDFs, DWGs, information I might want others to know that are using the material to know about the material. I can add links. So, maybe it's like to your internal intranet about how to use materials or to a manufacturer's website. And then I'm seeing a breakdown of those 5, property sets, tabs that I mentioned. So it's identity data, the graphics tab, which shows the colors that are used and the kind of the hatch patterns that are used there as well. The appearance asset. So this is kind of a breakdown of all of the different visual properties. Really key here as well is I have those image maps accessible that are used. So you can really kind of reach into a material and understand how it's constructed just by looking at the website. If you use them, there's the physical and thermal tabs, the properties from those. And then if I'm kind of looking for different materials, I have a set of like similar material suggestions at the bottom. that I can click on as well. And just quickly showing how this works with Revit. So from any of these kind of materials listings, I could click load into Revit. It was there, or just click the load button on the materials page. That's loaded in. I go into the materials dialog, and it's this one, the CMU split face. That's one way to do it, just from the website. The other way is using our add-in, so I can search and then narrow down the filter the selection to materials. Search through both the library or materials that are in use on other projects. And again, just click on it to load, and it will appear in the browser. So yeah, in summary, what are we doing? So Kinship is now kind of a central organized material library you can use for your company. It makes things much easier to kind of reuse materials across projects, which hopefully, as you agree, is a bit of a pain in the butt normally. We manage image maps, so once an image file is added to material, you never have to worry about renderings breaking for anyone. And really important as well is on the web, we're giving a kind of a rich preview of all of the data and visuals and image maps inside the material, so people can make a kind of an informed decision about what they place in. And that's it. So any questions? Or feel free to ask them over a beer or pizza afterwards.
Don't be shy. It's always like that. There we go. We've got two.
On the database of the material. So I know usually you store on your own, like Kinship online cloud. How flexible is that? Choose where you want to store, and also would be nice to see a bit more on, I don't know, UI, like how much, or maybe you can tell just a bit more about how can you manage that in Kinship.
The first question, is Jed in the room? I'd recommend talking to our CEO Gary or Jed just after about the first question about kind of storage location. Your second question was about like UI customization,
Yeah.
like yes. Yeah, I have a kind of barely working live demo that is on here that I could probably show at risk of kind of showing it to everyone. Maybe afterwards we could just take the laptop aside and I can show you through the kind of the nuts and bolts. If you have any like specific questions on it, I can go through those, but sorry, I feel like I'm deflecting questions like politician or something. Sorry, someone else had a. Yes. You have to reload them back in. So you're saying if you make an update to a material in the library and that material is used, a library material is used in a model, does it automatically push it? No, it doesn't. Partly just because of like you wouldn't want it to be automatic, but it's something we're considering in terms of there is a system in Kinship to look at the kind of propagation, let's say, of like objects in the library and how they're used in models. So like actually at the very bottom of the the materials page, there's like models this material is used in, and you can go in there and see which models are kind of using that material. Currently, you would need to make like a case-by-case decision to say we're gonna like push the update into this model, and there is a system that looks at the difference. So like this is currently in place for families, where if someone like adds a type that you know makes it slightly less similar. So there is a system for it, but it's not an automatic thing. Just to give a short answer, yeah. That's a very, yeah, it's a good question.
Can you repeat the question, because
Yes.
nobody else can hear it online?
Yeah, basically it's can we make materials backward compatible? So, you know, create them in 25 and then use them in a kind of an earlier version. Not currently, but we are working on and it's because of kind of a technical limitation at the moment, but in that we process things at kind of client side rather than recreating the materials in the background but in the future, particularly with materials, they are just a set of data points in a sense. So it could be possible to basically at the back end create a new material in older versions using the same like image map settings, graphics, fill patterns. So it's not at the moment, but it's being considered. Yeah. Yeah, that's still the case. I mean, one thing is it will so you can go up, you know, like the best practice at the moment would be like create it in a sensible like older version, as you probably do, and then it will like at the point of loading it into a model, it will kind of upgrade it. We're improving that process as well, so it's in the background, it's just instantly there, it's upgraded automatically. But yeah, particularly materials could be backward compatible in the future. So anyone else?
By the way, we keep
Anyone
going
online?
with questions. The pizza's just
Oh.
arrived, so we're just gonna go and bring them up. But keep asking.
There's one question online. So Ahmed said, can this be enhanced using AI to automatically assign materials to the model in accordance with the approved material list? I mean, yeah, anything's possible in the future. We are looking at how in general, like there is a system called collections, which is like collections of content in the library that can be assigned by an admin, like a BIM manager, content manager, to particular projects. But currently that's kind of it's a manual assignment process. We're looking at how content could be more like automatically assigned to projects based on things like the sector in the future. Maybe that will involve AI to answer your question. I'm not sure, but yeah, hopefully that's an answer. Anyone else in the room? Cool.
Like date of creation, date of like you know, fire ratings, all those things. Because you have to check them against ISO and 650 when you come to the end over. So I'm just like kind of like wondering how deep is the data when you come to good materials.
I mean, one thing to clarify is we're not providing any materials so it's your materials. We're just providing the, you know, the platform kind of thing. But in terms of the data that's visible there, I mean, yeah, out of the box materials don't have like a fire rating parameter, for instance, and we're not tracking like custom shared project parameters that you add to materials. We are tracking pretty much everything else. So like I showed that identity tab and it's got like, you know, keynote manufacturer, all of that stuff. So like, so long as you put that stuff as a description or one of the like inbuilt parameters into the material, you can see it. And yeah, you can edit the keynote and mark, which are the actually talking to a few customers. That was kind of a big one because they were worried about like, what if we've added a keynote, which is a spec from a particular project, added it to the library, and then that's wrong for other projects. So now you can just kind of strip those out on the website, and then when you load it back into another model, that's like a fresh material. So yeah, I think the answer is yes. Like we can extract certain like all of the data, but currently we can edit like some like the class, a couple of the data points can be edited from the website. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, feel free to come and have a chat afterwards. Cool. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Sorry, maybe very confusing question.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting. So
Yeah, location. I think sure actually, because yeah, Jed can probably tell you. Yeah.
clarified.
Yeah. Wait. So I need to.
No, I know it's been interesting. I've been at Hathaway, BDB, Pascal, we all been using Kinship.
Yeah.
I think we use that premises maybe on some, I think,
right.
he had it on premise.
Yeah, I should know this.
But
yeah,
in general, I think didn't work properly. Or
Yeah.
Some issues with syncing or something.
Yeah. I thought, maybe we've done it on premise for some customers, but yeah.
But it's the same platform, right? It's separate now, kind of module of materials.
Same
from
platform.
content
Yeah.
management.
All features are available to
The
everyone.
same
Yeah.
ecosystem.
Yeah.